There are few moments in life that completely shatter you and your faith. In a boundless ocean of grief, you struggle to hold on to anything that will keep you afloat. A memory, a video, even a smile. It was going to be a Thursday like any other. I came home from work, exhausted, and grabbed the remote to watch the news. The dogs were excited and ready for their evening walk. I was eating one of my TV dinners when I heard the phone ring. Mr. Aaron Williams? Are you the father of James Williams? Yes. Why? I asked, with a slight break in my voice. Is he okay? Sir, can you please come to St. Peter's right off of Oak and 7th? Your son is in the ER, and you are listed as the emergency contact. My hand started shaking, and I was taken over by a sense of impending doom. Is he alright? What happened to him? I asked, working through a lump in my throat. We won't know until the doctors update us, she said. I sped through the red lights, adrenaline coursing through my veins. I was in hysterics, wondering what was going on. I pulled into the parking lot and ran straight into the ER. I was told to wait while he was being treated. A mere 30 minutes later, I saw a doctor coming to talk to me. Mr. Williams, we are sorry. I tuned out everything he said after that. Something about an accidental overdose. Almost everything after that moment seemed like a blur. I remember breaking down multiple times and crying on the floor. It felt like someone had taken my heart and shattered it into millions of little pieces. How could this be so abrupt? Why was he taken away from me? I remember asking Greg, one of my closest friends. He didn't have much in the way of answers, but he tried the best he could. Death, unfortunately, follows a series of transactions and errands. Funerals must be planned, estates must be handled, and goodbyes must be said. I didn't have it in me to do any of this. I could barely get out of my bed. Greg stepped up and told me he would take care of it. He had seen what this had done to me, and took off from work to make sure that I was still alive. Which is why I didn't hesitate when he told me about the Anastasis funeral home. He told me that they were extremely professional and took care of all details, so I could focus on grieving. He offered to drive me there the next day, and I took him up on it. The car ride was extremely somber, and I was understandably not in the mood for conversation. You know Aaron? Anastasis offers a special service for grieving parents such as yourself. Assuming he was talking about grief counseling, I asked him to continue. Well, it is kind of like grief counseling. Don't you think you deserve one last chance to say goodbye to James? Yes, but you and I both know that that is impossible, I replied, with a hint of anger in my words. We got to Anastasis, and Greg told me to follow him as he made his way past the reception and into the back. He knocked on a small office door, past a row of storage closets. Come in. Greg opened the door, and I saw a rustic but well-kept office, adorned with wooden furniture that was at least a half-century old. Greg shook hands with a man who looked to be in his early 60s. He was short and his posture was not the best, but he was confident when he spoke and had a sympathetic smile. Mr. Williams, I am extremely sorry about your loss. No parent should have to go through such a situation, and I applaud your strength. I understand that you and James weren't on the best terms. Yes, but what does this have to do with the funeral? Well, we offer a specific service here at Anastasis. A chance to say goodbye one last time. Greg, what kind of sick joke is this? Have you lost your mind? I got up, ready to storm out the door. Please, Aaron, give him a chance. Just a few minutes. Then I will take you straight home. I refused to sit down, but gestured for him to continue. You see, when someone dies, they are not truly gone. There exists a space where their energy, soul if you will, still continues to exist. We have a special burial place where we can channel this energy and establish a fleeting connection between the world of the living and the dead. Ask Greg, we did the same thing for his dad. Greg nodded at me. Bull, I will not fall for this psychotic crap. Hey man, what is the harm in trying? If nothing happens, there's no harm done. I sat down and composed myself. I knew what I was being offered was wrong, but I was trapped in a deep hole, and someone had offered me a hand to climb out. Macabre as it may seem, I was given one last chance to say goodbye. How does this work? I asked him. Leave that to me, the man replied. The funeral was exactly what I hoped it would be. Sympathies were exchanged, people offered their condolences and help, while I just wanted to make it through the day. After the funeral, the man, Wesley, I think he was called, came up to me and asked me if I was ready. I nodded. I will see you at this address a week from now at 7 p.m., he said, handing me the address to a cemetery. Greg dropped me off at home and said that he was happy for me and that I made the right choice. He even offered to take me to the cemetery the following week. The week was no different than any other. Since my son's death, I was barely going through the motions and didn't have the energy or the courage to even get out of bed. Sometimes I would wake up and hope that what had happened was just a prolonged nightmare. Pretty soon, a week had passed, and Greg came to pick me up. He didn't speak to me the whole way, and I have to admit, it was kind of a relief to not be forced to talk. We pulled into the cemetery. We met with Wesley, who led us to the middle of the field. He pointed to the ground and turned to me. Go on, speak with him. I hesitated. James? This was a load of crap. At best, it was a way to scam grieving parents. At worst, I had been convinced to do a ritual by a bunch of psychotic nutjobs. Louder, Mr. Williams. James, are you here, son? I noticed the ground below me getting cold, and a brief draft rustling the leaves. I heard light footsteps in my direction. Dad? I heard behind me. I couldn't believe this was real. My eyes swelled up and tears were rolling down my cheeks. It almost felt like I couldn't breathe. Son, where are you? No response. I'm so sorry for not being there for you. I should have taken better care of you. Please, forgive me. It is okay, Dad. I am now in a better place. The voice sounded exactly like him. Before I could speak another word, Wesley told me that it was time to go, and that we shouldn't stay any longer. I protested, but both him and Greg were adamant that the time had come for us to leave. Still in disbelief of what I had just witnessed, I asked them both to explain this, and to come clean if they were trying to scam me. Listen, Aaron, you got the closure you needed. It is best if we don't discuss this any further. Greg will take you home, Wesley said sternly. I couldn't sleep that night, or the night after. I was never one to believe in the paranormal or afterlife, but hearing James speaking to me completely changed the way I thought. I wanted to speak with him again, to ask him how he was doing, to beg for his forgiveness. I kept calling Greg and Wesley, but I always got told that the time was not right, that I shouldn't be abusing this privilege. I kept quiet, but deep down I knew that I had to speak to my son again. On James's birthday, July 2nd, I couldn't control myself any longer. I found the piece of paper that Wesley had given me and drove to the cemetery at night. I stood in the middle of the ground, now marked by a couple of leaves, and kept trying to reach out to James. "James, look, I'm back. Please tell me if you are here." I yelled, kicked, and screamed, but to no avail. I was just about to turn around and go home when I heard something. It was a cacophony of noise, barely discernible. It was extremely loud, and it seemed to be headed my way. "Leave," it said. I heard footsteps, but it sounded like someone was running towards me. I was overtaken by a feeling of fear, like I had violated something sacred. As the footsteps got closer and closer, I started running. The sound got louder and louder. Screeching through the noise, I heard a familiar voice. "Dad, why did you do this? Why did you bury me here?" I would have turned around, but it felt like the footsteps were right behind me. I got in my car and drove as fast as I could until I was home. I called Greg and Wesley immediately. Both of their numbers had been disconnected. I tried going to the cemetery again, but can no longer find the address. All I wanted was a chance to say goodbye to my son, but I'm afraid that I may have corrupted his soul instead.